Well, we're back talking about coronavirus, maybe for the last time, at least for a while. I'm kind of coronavirus out. I'm sick of it, honestly. Um, I just wanted to touch base, talk about a couple of things, some observations and whatnot, and just kind of talk about what I'm doing. Um, One, I'm trying to do maybe a few more live streams just so I can do something, right? I mean, I'm already busy here, as I'll talk about, but just something to, I don't know, connect with everybody else. Um, Today, let's see, we are on a Wednesday, and right now, as being reported, we're looking at around in the United States about 14,600 deaths, um, which is a lot from COVID. And so, kind of to put that in perspective, the way that I've been looking at it is um, in comparison to September 11th. So here in the United States, of course, in 2001, we looked at how many people had died in the terrorist attack. And so if we're at 14,600, we're at 4 times that amount, which really kind of keeps the numbers in perspective, because there's something that happens with numbers, particularly when we start getting into big numbers. They don't mean much to us anymore because it's hard for us to kind of understand what that number looks like, right? Or what it actually means. And this is something I talk about in my classes quite a lot. It's easy for us to understand, 40 years. It's easy for us to understand 80 years, even 100 years, but 200 years, 300, 1,000. It's really difficult for us to kind of wrap our head around that because we don't have that time frame, right? Kind of the same with numbers. We understand 1,000, we understand 50 people, 100 people. But as those numbers start getting up, it starts getting pretty hard to imagine what that number is. So I've been using that as my frame of reference. Some good news on that, though, right? Is that we have about 23,000 people that have recovered here in the United States. So that's awesome, right? That's what we want to see. That's what the hope is that we are going to cause the least amount of death and increase the higher amount of recoveries due to healthcare and all of these different things. I took a quick peek today looking at some of the other nations. Now, there's a lot of other nations that are on the upswing. There are certain countries, I know in Africa, that are starting to see an uptick. Where we're at right now in Italy, Italy has had 17,000 deaths. And so we've been watching Italy because that was like a horror show, right? So as an example, we're at 23,000 recoveries, 14,000 deaths. Italy ended up currently today with 17,000 deaths. So Italy is still ahead, but we're catching up to that, which is kind of frightening, right? Spain is at around 14,800 deaths. And where I'm getting all this data, if you're interested, is the John Hopkins has a great application that you can kind of look at some of the data. Where I'm at here in Texas, we're still ticking up, not super quick, but it's still a constant tick up. However, just kind of giving some good news, a lot of the projections were putting, for example, Texas, putting us at the peak of our COVID infections like May 1st, right? Then they kind of scaled it back looking at the models, and now we're looking at maybe April 19th. So that's right around the corner, which is awesome. And so that's kind of one of the things I wanted to kind of discuss real quick is what we're expecting to see versus the estimates, okay? The estimates are good estimates. When you hear data that says, okay, we're not going to reach that estimate, that's good. That means the things that we have done, that we've put into place, are functioning, they're working, okay? This is not a time to say, oh, you overestimated it and see, it's not even as bad as you think it is. No, it would have been very, very bad. But because of people doing what they're supposed to be doing, that number is decreasing. So that's awesome. That's what we want to see. So don't let that kind of mess up your thinking in terms of, oh, this wasn't as bad as they talked about it. No, it's not great. Okay. One of the things that I think we're seeing here in Texas and kind of in my area, is that we kind of already social distance in terms of we don't have mass transit systems here. Everyone drives their own car to work. And so I think because of that, we're not, we don't have a huge part of the population that lives on top of one another like New York City. So it becomes a little bit harder for stuff to kind of pass around. And so I think this is a really good example for us to kind of think about. And again, all this is going to be hashed out once this is all said and done, to kind of look at the actual data behind it. But it's a good thing to understand that just because we're seeing New York have these super high numbers doesn't mean every place is going to have that. Every city is going to be different. Every city is going to have a different curve. Every city is going to have a different threshold. Every city is very, very different. So just because you see numbers barely tick up in your city doesn't mean that your city wasn't affected by that, right? It doesn't mean that it wasn't that bad. It's just that for your city, whatever reason that was, you guys didn't have a huge case of it. And that's awesome. That's good for you guys, right? And so I think that was part of what it is here in Texas. And we really did start, I say we did, statewide, a lot of people started taking this very seriously fairly early on. Every place is going to be different in terms of, when we put things in place, why we're doing what we're doing. And so those are some tough choices to make, no doubt. I would have liked to see federally this started, anyway, that's a personal opinion. I'll get into that later if we want to talk about that. But I think for the most part, I'm hoping that we're going to see these curves drop off pretty quickly. My concern is there's some other cities that haven't peaked, and that they're going to come in waves. That we're going to see New York kind of peak off. Then we're going to see places like what they're talking about now is Philadelphia, starting to increase in the next couple of weeks. Potentially LA or Washington or all these other not the city, but maybe Washington DC. Anyway, all these different cities kind of peaking at different times. So we're not out of the woods yet. It's important for us to understand though as well. Once we're kind of over that peak, this is not going away. Like there isn't this end game where it just drops back down to zero. That's not going to happen. It's going to stay at some level in the environment. Okay. The same way that the flu stays in the environment all year round. You can get the flu in the summer. You can get the flu in the spring. You can get the flu right now. It's always going to be there. Okay, so this idea that we're out of the woods once we are over that peak is not the case, okay, at all. So be aware of that. What that looks like, I have no idea. Some of the things that they've talked about that I saw was that people that have gotten sick, tested positive, and that they're okay, that those people can maybe start going back to work because they're going to be around other people that have also tested positive and that they're over that. And so, they've got, I don't want to call it an immunity, but they have the resistance to that. And maybe there's an immunity out there. We haven't done any of the testing yet, but that they were fairly asymptomatic and they were able to handle it. So they're still going to be out there. Again, we can see this rear its ugly head again. So we just have to kind of go about this smartly. I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't think really anybody does at this point. I wanted to talk a couple things again. I've mentioned these back in the very first video I made. But the other thing I wanted to harp on is that it's not the flu, right? This is not the same as a flu for a couple reasons. And it kind of angers me that I still hear people say, oh, well, it's still less than the flu virus. Okay, that's a good thing, but it's not the same. So a couple of things. Number one, this is deadlier than the flu. Okay, we know that. We've looked at the R naught numbers. We know it's more easily transmissible. There's a higher death rate for people that do get this, which I do expect that number to come down. I still think it's going to be much more than the flu. I mean, there's enough people out there that have said that that's the case, that have done tons of research on it, that I'm confident in their assessment of this. There's a couple things we have to take into account. I mean, the flu's bad. Let's get that straight. It kills a lot of people a year, and we have vaccines for it. We also have medicines that we can take, like Tamiflu, within the first couple of days that allow you to survive that, right? You have less symptoms because you shorten the period of that. That's awesome, right? The other thing about flu virus that a lot of people forget is, a couple of reasons why it doesn't get passed around as much is one, because we have vaccines. And number two, you can be you can be infective about 24 hours before you're symptomatic. And so what happens is when you start feeling crummy, you kind of figure out, oh, I'm sick, maybe I should go to the doctor, get a flu test, or you just stay home. And so because of that, you're slowing down that transmission, right? The problem with this virus is there's people walking around that are asymptomatic and spreading it to everyone. And if you're not, let's say you are symptomatic, that you are going to get sick from it, you can actually be spreading this up to 3 to 4 days, maybe even earlier than that, before you even show the first symptom. And so again, it's easier spread. And so what we're now playing is numbers, right? If it's that easy to catch, it can go through the population very quickly, which means that if most people get it, well, again, think about this. If 100,000 people get it, and it's a small percentage, let's say it's a 1% death rate, that's a lot of people still, right? That's still a lot of people. And so it's this numbers game that you kind of have to understand that there is a difference between that. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people walking around that are immune to certain variants of flu, right? That's totally possible. I mean, I say possible, it is. That's exactly what's going on. There are people out there that are resistant to the flu virus. I'm sure there's people resistant to coronavirus. I mean, we know that they're out there. But it is still not the same. What happens is that right now we are acting like the vaccine would for flu. And that is by social distancing, wearing your mask, all of those things, we're preventing that spread. That's exactly what the flu vaccine would do. If you would imagine that if we weren't to do this, I mean, just go look at New York. If the virus were to just run rampant the way it has through New York in every major city, that's a lot of people dying, right? If you look at the way it ran through Italy, right? That is, imagine that in every major city. That's terrible. Now, again, yes, I know if you're out there screaming at your screen saying, but Italy had a lot of older people. Yes, you're right. I know. There's a lot of smokers in all these other countries, smokers here, a lot of diabetics here. There's a lot of different factors that go into play. So just be aware of that. So stop comparing it to the damn flu. It's not the same, okay? And what really angers me is, well, the flu kills 50,000 people. This is not even anything close. Don't diminish the people that died from the flu. That's awful. That's terrible. Number two, about this. There's a lot of drugs out there that people are talking about that could really help. And man, I really hope that some of those trials come out awesome. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit on this. Some of those drugs, and when I say some of them, pretty much all of them, can have some nasty side effects. Some trials show that it works in this group. Some trials show that it doesn't work. Or at high-risk patients, you can't take this drug. So understand that if we get a drug that can help with COVID, that's awesome, but that may not help everyone. There is no miracle drug that's just going to solve this. There's no silver bullet. Think about this for a second. Think of all the medicines that you've had to take. Maybe it's prescription medicine, or maybe it's Sudafed or Tylenol. Can you take all of those? Have you ever taken something and had a nasty reaction to it, or a side effect that you didn't care for? If you have, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just because a majority of the population might be able to take something doesn't mean that that's going to be right for you, you know? So the same is going to apply for these drugs. So we want across the board, we want a lot of different options in terms of what drugs work. Hopefully we'll get a vaccine going. That would be awesome as well. So just keep things in perspective. That's all that I'm asking here, okay? Okay, anyway, there's a lot of science behind it. It's constantly changing, guys. As an example, the first video I made, we were just saying, hey, if you're 60 or plus, you guys really have to worry about it. If you're younger, you seem to be doing okay. We know that that's not quite the case, right? The data's changed. Each city's going to be different. Each country is going to be different. And so what we're seeing now is that may not be the case. You know, yes, you are at higher risk if you're older. That doesn't mean that you're not at risk if you're 20 years old. My concern now, of course, is the doctors. I know people that have been exposed to it that are in the medical field. So hopefully that they are going to be good in the next couple of weeks. I don't know. We'll see. First responders. Again, my brother is first responder, so I worry about him a lot as well. Shoppers, people going out to get groceries, people that work in the grocery stores. I'm expecting those numbers to go up. Matter of fact, there's an article that came out today talking about that. So some concerns out there. We're not out of the woods yet, so stay safe. Keep doing what you're doing. Which kind of brings me to my next part of this is, man, just talk about emotional. All the stuff that's going on. I'm a mix between anger and anxiety, right? Anxiety just because I know that, there's people out there risking their lives, potentially spreading this as well. Not even on purpose, but it can, it's a catch-22. So I'm doing everything that I can to be precautious with my family, wiping down groceries when we have to do that, staying home. We might drive around and do a Pokemon stop or two and then come back home. But other than that, we're pretty much here. It's been a little crazy being at home. I was listening to a podcast earlier, and something that they said that I thought was really interesting is we're all having the same American, or rather the same human experience right now. The same thing that you're doing here, someone in Los Angeles is doing, that someone in Florida is doing, that someone in Canada is doing. And so we're all going to come out of this with kind of that same connection, which I think that's kind of cool, right? Things at home have been pretty good. The kids, of course, don't like their new teachers. So, my wife and I are both teachers, and being a teacher, half of that is being able to be patient, right? It's an exercise in patience. And so even for us, that can be problematic. Even for our children, it can be problematic. So I can only imagine parents out there that are having to tackle this on their own. Man, I feel for you guys, because I feel for myself. And my wife, mainly, she's been doing an awesome job taking care of the kids and letting me get some work done. But yeah, we've been playing outside, mowing. It's been busy though, because I'll work all day. My wife will work all day teaching the kids, and then she has to do her work on top of that. I'll do dinner most of the time, and trying to keep up with the chores around the house. It's just been crazy. So hopefully yours has been a little bit more laid back. Maybe not. But I did go out. I've gone out a couple of times, and guys, I gotta say, I'm a little upset at people in this area just not really taking this seriously. People are not self-distancing from one another unless they're told to. A lot of people are not wearing any mask. It kind of sucks, especially because we have a lot of really good people at the state, at the local, and the federal level all telling us to do these things. When that all lines up, I tend to listen, right? And so we totally should be doing this. Even if it's not for your safety, it's for the safety of the people around you. And that's just really what you should be doing. Which really kind of made me think today, like, what will it take for people to take things seriously? I mean, are we going to have Ebola just start running rampant before we do something? It's kind of upsetting that a subset of the population is kind of doing all the work, to be honest, and doing this thing right. I'm just like, if everyone would have done this, could we have finished this? Could we have brought down this curve like a week ago? That would have been awesome. So I don't know. Again, just lots of anxiety, lots of anger. But on the brighter side, I am getting to stay home with my family, hang out with my kids, so that's pretty awesome. We're just doing chores around the house, baking and cooking, and I'm out here in my shed this afternoon. It got really hot today. You can probably tell I'm probably sweating in here. It's pretty toasty. I'm gonna have to get an air conditioner in here. I don't know when or where. Maybe I can find one on Craigslist cheap or something. So I'm hoping we see a quick turnaround, both with the whole quarantine. I know it's not a quarantine. It's a stay-at-home, I know. But I like calling it quarantine. Sounds cooler. Say with the same... anyway, whatever. But hopefully this turns around. I hope you and yours are doing great. Like I said, I probably won't post for a while. I'm kind of tired of COVID. I've had to turn the TV off a little bit because I'll just get angry or saddened by the numbers that I see. But I always check back in. I like to know kind of what's coming, what's going on, right? Anyway, that's what we've been doing. That's where my brain's been. I'm going to get out in the shed, try to clean it up. We've been setting up cameras around the yard to watch animals come up. I don't know if the animals are more likely to run around because there's not as much traffic, or I'm more likely to see them because I'm home more, or maybe both. I don't know. Either way, it's pretty fun. It's been fun to watch little baby rabbits and stuff like that. So it's been really fun around the house. Anyway, I know I've rambled on long enough. This is probably one of the longest videos I've made. Thanks for watching. I'm going to come back soon with some DIY, maybe some builds. I'd say I'm going to do one on masks because I've been making masks like crazy, but there's a million videos on those, so I'm not even going to do that. They're much better than mine anyway. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys later. Stay safe.